Welcome to everybody. There's Locke. Hi, man. Sorry, I was bringing you in there. So, hi, everyone.
Well, hello.
Hey, Locke.
We have beer. It's Saturday night, and beer. So, how's it going?
Yeah, well,
Sorry, man.
um,
So sorry.
yeah,
I think we
going
should let
all right.
Locke go first.
Okay, so I think this evening what I will be presenting is this latest discovery of mine. Tint Meadow, I think is how I'm. Is that what I'm reading there? I think that's how that would be pronounced.
Sure,
Um,
that sounds good to me.
so this is
Guy when I was reading.
apparently an English Trappist ale. It was brewed by the monks of Mount St. Bernard Abbey, Turnwood Forest.
You say Sherwood Forest?
Sure, no, Charnwood. I don't know. You should look up Charnwood Forest, see if it's anywhere near Sherwood. But we have an additional label that's being pasted onto it, which I presume brings us up to code in Canada because it's in English and French. Now, if it's a Trappist ale from England, yeah, I mean, one might think they would put it in French anyway, but it also has a barcode. So maybe this is just an LCBO thing. I don't know. It's a product of the United Kingdom. Leicestershire. That's where Chernwood is. It's in Leicestershire. Okay, 7.4 alcohol per volume. Let me read what it says on the label here. With this beer, we have returned to the 19th century tradition of brewing in our abbey. When our brethren arrived in 1835, they settled in a poor cottage on Tint Meadow, now an extension of our monastic enclosure. This strong dark ale re-ferments in the bottle, store in a cool dark place, pour gently at 9 degrees Celsius.
A lot of rules for this. Pour gently at blah on Thursday, October 12th, only after 11 p.m.
But understand, this is very much my cup of tea for what craft brewing, was decades ago and can be again, which is to say that I love this kind of thing. This is, and furthermore, I think there's something also historically interesting about the fact that in the 19th century, Trappists started a monastery in England, which, if you consider that mostly England is known for the dissolution of the monasteries under Henry VIII, interesting that in the 19th century, and indeed at the beginning of the 19th century, yeah, you want me to pour this thing? Okay.
Beer! Give us the history lesson after.
Hold on, I'm going to need to get a bottle opener because I just realized this thing
requires a real cap remover.
It's got a real cap on it.
Wow. Okay, so we have to cover the show while he's gone. Okay.
Quick, do a number.
Actually,
There was a man from Nantucket who
tripped over his large wiener. Dogs are being unruly. So, by the way, the topic for tonight is going to be the cancellation of the Victoria Great Canadian Beer Festival and the Langford Beer Fest as well.
Yes.
Cancelled for 2025, yeah. It was announced yesterday, or the All right, you're pouring. Let's see it. Let's see that glass.
Ooh,
Oh my.
that
Oh
looks
my.
We have a dark caramel
pretty
color.
flavorful. That's not what I would expect from a Trappist.
Is it kind of? Has it got a bit of a red tinge going on it?
Let me hold it up to a white light.
It kind of looked like it did, but it might have been just your camera.
Yeah, kind of look like a classic. Oh,
I agree. The tinge is reddish. It's yeah, it's got a little bit of a dark cherry color. Oh, that is nice.
oh.
Oh. Tell us more.
Like it looks like you're about ready to change your pants.
Mm.
Right, what's the mouth feel like? What does it smell like? Give us the aromatic.
Depending on the active yeast in the bottle fermentation, you may not be far wrong. But I think that this has completed in its fermentation. What is it like? It's kind of got a little bit of a plum pudding, barley winey kind of thing going on. Not as strong as a barley wine, but it has that meditative toffee, plum pudding, currants, but
And refresh my memory. What's it called?
Tint Meadow English Trappist Ale.
I'm gonna have to see if I can find that.
Yeah, this is now it's a direct import from England, so it may be fussy, but part of the reason, if I understand correctly, that I've been hearing that the Beer Fest was canceled is because of the tariffs that were. Sorry, how did that affect?
Yeah, we'll get. I think we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah. I actually have a question about the beer you have, but let's open this and get this going because this might kill us.
Yes. So, just to segue a little bit here. So Shane and I are drinking this. This is an old cellar dweller. This is significantly aged. This is a 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So this is now 10 years old. For cellarable beers, they're saying, 4 years tops is what you want to age it. So this is more than double that. Looking at it through the glass, I kind of question whether it's turned to vinegar. But we're going to see. And if we can't drink it, I brought some backups just in case.
Okay, so is that an old cellar dweller that you have aged yourself on top of the aging?
This is one that was gifted to me by a person that I worked with whose husband actually worked for Driftwood Brewing. He kept it from 2015 and decided he didn't want it or whatever, and they gifted it to me.
Okay.
And I've been for probably the last 3 or 4 years. So
let's open it up and see if it's vinegar.
All right. And you had a question about Locke or about his beer.
Well, it's actually about the whole, this whole issue with apparently the tariffs are hurting hop. There's a 25% tariff on hop imports. So if you want hops in your beer, you have to pay an exorbitant amount. Apparently,
these are whose tariffs are they?
The United States tariffs. So Canadian.
So we're having trouble selling hops in the United States. Would be
having all kinds of trouble apparently due to all of these rules that are, or at least I honestly think, because there's not a lot of information about this except that we know that it's happening, but there is not a lot of. That's what it looks like. Smells all right.
I don't remember this it should have this big of a head on it, but
All right, let's have a sip, and if we die, it was good knowing you.
Mm.
All right, it's fine to me. Tastes like as it should. Maybe a little more tart than normal. But
I think it's a little bit more fruity
yeah,
than normal. There's a bit more of like a plum kind of
yeah, okay. I can
flavoring
see that.
to it, but it's not like revolting or anything.
Mm.
So essentially, the what seems to be the rabbit hole I've gone down is that the whole uncertainty of the border, and of course liquor stores across the country saying no more American imports. The question I had for you was, have you seen this beer before? Like, I'm assuming you have, but maybe not.
Not only have I seen that beer before, I have seen that beer with that era of driftwood artwork because I drank one.
Yeah, yeah.
I may have
No,
drunk.
but I'm talking about the UK beer that you have. I'm talking about the Trappist.
Oh, the Trappist one. Sorry, what about it?
Have you seen that one before?
No,
I'm assuming
no.
that we all.
That's why I was excited by it. This is something that I have
Well,
not.
because I'm curious, and we could look this up, but I'm curious if, since liquor stores in Canada, at least for the most part, especially BC, the BC
And
liquor
Ontario.
Ontario as well, but the BC Liquor Board is not importing U.S. based alcohol now,
Mm-hmm.
and the so basically it's buy Canadian, blah blah blah, or other countries. I'm curious if there's more imports from like the UK as an example coming in, since the shelves are empty of the US stuff.
Well, I don't know,
I don't know
but,
if that's
but I'm relatively enthusiastic about that prospect. I think it's a good idea. Now, I think you'll find Ontario liquor stores are pretty well stocked with European beer anyway. It really is only in the last decade that Ontario sort of really fully embraced craft brewing. So late to the play on that one. But before then, I think the LCBOs, to the degree that they were, trying to differentiate themselves from the beer store, tended to focus on interesting products with a probably predominance of European imports. Just because, I think Ontario still kind of orients itself towards the Atlantic, if you see what I mean.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean that's the thing is that we don't tend to see a lot of. I mean, we see some obviously, but we don't see a lot of European beers out here. I mean, remember we did that episode where we were talking about I think it was an Icelandic beer. It was from a brewery in Reykjavik or something.
Yeah, vaguely I remember.
Which I mean, that I'm going back a few years, but I'm just curious if this will continue after the whole when the tariffs calm down, perchance, maybe in 3 years.
If there is a market here for a beer from overseas,
yeah,
and people are willing to pay the cost of the beer plus the cost that it takes to import it, then yeah, I would say they'll still bring it in.
I'm just curious because we're on the West Coast. I want to know. I want to know more about what kind of an alcohol future have we got? Are we
Our alcohol?
Sorry.
What? Yeah. I mean, sorry. You're worried Canada doesn't have a sound alcohol.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Like we have a very, we've got a ton of breweries out there. It's not a concern that we can't make it, but if we have, it's like the pandemic. So, like talking about the Great Canadian Beer Festival.
Mm.
According to my summary that I just generated,
Mm.
one of the reasons is declining attendance for the festival. So they had this double whammy of not getting funding. They didn't get the funding they were expecting, but they're also looking at the broader picture of there's not as many people going, partially due to COVID, but more importantly,
I think the reason why people aren't going as much has more to do with the fact that there's so much competition out there. It's like every single community has some kind of a beer fest going on. I mean, 30 years ago, the beer fest that was here in Victoria was the only one in all of Canada.
True.
And tickets sold out the day they went on sale. But then Vancouver started having one, and Calgary started having one, and it's like little Duncan here on Vancouver Island has one. I mean, it's not a destination.
Well, all right. So maybe the way to envision this is like sort of one of those ICBM warheads where the explosion of, the Great Canadian Beer Fest, in Victoria resulted in the release of a bunch of smaller warheads, which have landed, in Calgary and Duncan, and right?
The Death's Head.
The Death's Head from that video game.
Yeah.
I mean, this is true. I mean, a lot of the landscape is changing. We've got all these different, as you were pointing out, the events that are popping up everywhere. How do you make the Great Canadian Beer Festival, which has the best bloody name out of all of them, how do you make it a destination again?
Well, I think the first thing that we need to do is establish free trade in Canada, and then the Great Canadian Beer Fest can be something that actually works. You know what I mean? And maybe the best plan is for it not to have a single home, but for it to travel, and then have different host cities. Maybe that's a good idea.
That's not a bad idea.
So how do us, the Crafty Boys, help the Great Canadian Beer Fest?
Let's
do that. Should we take over? They have no money now, so they're probably just handed over to us.
Yeah, I doubt.
Yeah, we'll take the Hudson's Bay Company while we're at it. Yeah. They should hand it over to us. I think we have more vision than they do. I'd like to be able to support that somehow with some obvious, like statistical or evidentiary backing, but I kind of don't know. I mean, I just kind of think that vision is one of those things,
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose, yeah. I mean, I guess, the thing has been around, what was it, last year was the 30th year?
30th year, and actually, because they missed a couple of years because of COVID, it was probably more like 32nd, but...
Right, of course. And how many years? So it was gone. It wasn't around in 2020. It wasn't around in 21.
That's right.
But it returned in 22. Oh, it was 22.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
So
a 30-year running.
Basically, festivals and events like that basically what's happening is that they're having to follow the model of a musician these days, where for the last 10 years or so, musicians don't make a whole lot of money with albums anymore. They make money by traveling and playing live and all this kind of stuff. So maybe that what you're saying, Locke, is totally where they should be doing it, traveling around.
See, like when Shane and I found out that the Beer Fest is canceled this year, we said, okay, well, isn't there one in Vancouver as well?
Yeah.
So and there is. It's on July the 12th. So we're like, okay, well, let's go there. So we bought tickets, and what they do, interestingly, how the Canadian Beer Fest here, they do a Friday night and a Saturday afternoon. So it's over 2 days. In Vancouver, they're doing an afternoon and an evening all on the same day. So
staggering
Does that mean that it costs half as much to do the Vancouver Beer Fest as it does the Victoria one because their overhead would be half? Well, maybe not
possibly,
completely,
but they're also doing it at the now. I'm guessing because I have never been to this event, but they're also doing it at the P&E grounds. So the Beer Fest is at the P&E because the P&E is running at that point. And then I do believe that it said included all shows. So basically, because they have musicians coming in, not just for the beer festival, but for the P&E and sort of general, you get to attend all the shows. So, Bruce Springsteen was playing that night. We would be allowed to go and see Bruce Springsteen. I gather that's my assumption, but it was pretty vague on what they meant.
it was vague on what you get with your ticket.
Yeah. So unless you spent $30 in tokens, and my liver was like, no,
Yeah, I'm not.
we're going to go gently into that fair night.
And it was only 4 hours, whereas at the Victoria one you'd get 5. So and we're not exactly spring chickens anymore here.
We're old now.
We're old.
When we start this podcast,
What you're saying, you're seeing the problem is that if you drank the amount of beer that you wanted to drink at a beer festival in 4 instead of 5 hours, you'd be like really, really drunk.
Yeah, well, that too.
Yeah, and probably think I was going to die in my sleep. But the other thing I noticed a difference is the Vancouver one boasts at least 150 beers.
Yeah, there were a lot more.
No. So the Victoria one last year, I think, had almost 300 beers.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even notice. I was too busy falling down, I guess.
They had almost 100 breweries in attendance.
Ah, okay.
Mm.
Well, I'm at the end of the day, it's the only thing that we can go to. I mean, there's nothing close by otherwise.
Well, I mean, Duncan has one. Whistler has one.
When is the Duncan one?
I don't know. I don't think anybody.
Let me get my phone.
Get your phone and find out.
And I'll find out.
I'm sure Nanaimo has one. Chemainus probably does. There's probably a beer fest on the roof of your building.
That's every Sunday. Vancouver Island Beer Festivals 2025. Let's find out. So in 2025, Vancouver Island will see several ones. Parksville Beer Festival and the Tapped In Mini Putt Craft Beer and Music Festival in Parksville. Is that 2 events or the same one? As well as the Brewery and the Beast in Victoria. What is that?
That sounds like fun.
Advertised before. I don't know. I don't know too much about it.
There's one in Penticton, one in North Van, Port Moody. Search for the Perfect Pint, which was yesterday. Langley Craft Beverage Week, Kelowna Beer Fest, Brewhalla. Although Brewhalla isn't that? I just saw that already. Where is maybe oh yeah, Brewhalla Beer and Music Festival in North Van.
I have to say that Penticton one, that's one I'd like to go to sometime.
Not a bad idea. Squamish.
When is the Penticton one?
Like next week.
Oh yeah, well, I'm not going next week, but
oh, it already happened. Sorry, April 11th and 12th.
Okay, well, maybe next year.
The Okanagan Fest of Ale. So we're in no shortage of being able to go to different
Absolutely. There's tons, and that's part of the problem, right? There's just so many craft beer events out there. It's difficult to advertise yours as being the one to go to. Honestly, one of the biggest downfalls of these kinds of events, I remember, 10 years or more ago, the beer fest would have quite a few breweries from Washington State and Oregon up,
Mm.
and then the provincial liquor laws changed for bringing stuff in from the States, and the American breweries stopped coming.
Mm.
Oh yeah, I forgot that. You're right.
When did that happen?
I used to come from Seattle.
When?
Rogue used to come.
Yeah, Rogue came with some really weird ones, which is awesome.
When was the change?
That was about, I want to say, about 10 years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't recent. Which reminds me, we've been doing this podcast for 10 years. Surprise! We started in February of 2015.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And we're pros now.
So basically,
10 years and it's still it's
right here was bottled right around the time that we started doing the Crafty Boys. That's crazy to me.
Mm.
It's crazy.
We're old now.
Goes this beer.
Yeah. But I think overall, we've actually been doing this show long enough that we've been able to see what's going on in the overall craft beer. Oh, you have a can of beer.
Yeah.
Is that from?
He finished his Trappist already.
That is beer. Is that from,
I could have another Trappist ale right now, but no. That's
savor that one.
Cake on cake. I need something a little bit. I'm hoping this is going to be refreshing.
I have to ask, Locke, what was the alcohol by volume on that Trappist?
That was a 7.4.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
I really need to go look for that one.
Yes, I agree. It's good. It's really good. I recommend it strongly. This, in case you're wondering, is Radical Road's beer. They're not the first company to do beer labeled beer. Beer from Alberta was. I think it was a sort of a spin-off project of Big Rock Brewery, but the advertisements used to be beer, good and cheap like me.
Good and cheap like you. Trying to remember the name of that.
Well, it was a man kill, wasn't it?
Dharma. There you go. I was just curious if that was beer from Dharma.
And Greg.
Sorry, Dharma and Greg. What is that?
The TV show Lost had a. If you ever watched that show, all of the foodstuffs that showed up on the magical island in that TV show were labeled with just like white labels that just said beer. Didn't say what, it just said beer. So that's what your.
It didn't matter if it was chicken ramen; it would say beer on it.
That's right.
Yeah.
You'd open it and be surprised. I want to get drunk on chicken ramen. So, overall, we are sad that the Great Canadian Beer Fest is not happening. But at the same time,
I'm looking forward to trying it something different and going to Vancouver.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
And for once, I go to you instead of you coming to me.
This is right. I'm glad that Locke, review my new sofas, with Alan can sleep on.
Oh, yes. Good. Yeah, I was impressed. IKEA have, hey, look, Swedes, they're kind of my height.
Okay, cool.
Yes, there were tons of, I got them specifically because there was lots of room for tall people.
Leg room,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what else is happening in the world? What things have been going on? Have we any news to cover of any kind? Or do we give a shit?
I would say the Beer Fest thing was the big one.
I'm actually curious about this hops and tariffs.
Well, it's not just the hops.
Well, I'm assuming if the hop, I mean, it doesn't sound like a good excuse for canceling the beer fest. That it's being brought up sounds to me like casting around for reasons and just attaching them. I would assume that if there's a problem for the hop growers, it's that they are, if the U.S. isn't buying them due to tariffs. I guess.
Okay.
How does this stop them from selling them to Canadian breweries?
So basically, the Canadian government put on a 25% tariff on a bunch of different goods.
Right. So we have retaliatory tariffs. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, and they're now considering an additional 25, so 50%. What?
Do you remember?
Armageddon for craft brewing.
You remember earlier? Well, when would that have been? It would have been, I guess, late last fall. The rhetoric about Trump's tariffs, and I pointed out what an idiotic thing that would be, because one country introduces tariffs, everybody else introduces tariffs. So now everybody has more tax. For a guy who's saying that he's not pro-tax, to institute what effectively means more taxes for everybody, because all of these tariffs go where? To the free market? No, they go to the government.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, I mean, so it sounds like the anyone growing hops in our country are going to get hurt, and if there are hops that are available to import, we're going to get hurt that way too.
But it's not just the hops; it's the aluminum.
Oh yeah, aluminum. Yeah.
Like the tariff. Like we mine the aluminum up here. It gets sent down to the States to get turned into cans, where it's tariffed at that point. And then when Canadian producers buy the cans from the States, it's tariffed again when it comes back. I mean, this is just all adding extra costs on an industry that was already hurting to begin with.
Well, also the canneries, the companies that make cans in our country are over capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So they are not able to fulfill the Canadian market, I guess.
I don't think the tariffs necessarily hurt the Canadian, the Great Canadian Beer Fest itself. It's hurting the breweries.
Yeah.
The Beer Fest needs to have enter into the show, but entering into the show costs money. And if they're already hurting financially, they're going to choose not to go into the show because there's no return on the return on their investment isn't enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty. The article that I was just looking at, the BC, what does it say? BC brewers brace for Armageddon as Canada eyes tariffs on hops, and this is like the end of March. So companies that are brewing stuff.
I understand that it's impossible to grow hops in Mexico. Is that right?
Sorry, to grow hops where?
In Mexico? Or here, for that matter?
I don't know. Let's find out.
I mean, there's the whole argument for, well, maybe Canada can grow its own hops, but fuck's sake, how's Mexico doing? They want to grow some hops?
Well, I think hops can be grown and are grown in BC, but it's just a question of how many.
Yeah, well, maybe.
While there are no widespread hop farms in Mexico, some research and experimentation has been done, especially in the northern states of Mexico. Growing hops in Mexico faces challenges related to climate, specifically the lack of sufficient cold periods and appropriate day lengths. Wow, I didn't actually realize that. I've never considered hops not being able to grow in a place like that.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, no, but I'm glad we know that now, because that's the sort of thing that's sort of relevant, isn't it?
Well, exactly, and we also have harsh conditions here for hops. I mean, they're pretty good, but it does get really cold, and I would just, I'm surprised that hop. Well, actually, there are hop plants that are behind my building, and they grow up the telephone poles. They grow along the wires, and but I have noticed the past couple of years that they're not recovering as readily as they used to, because they used to like burst into huge plants. But the last couple of years, I've noticed they're a lot smaller than they normally were, and I thought it was because people were just ripping them out of the ground or killing them or whatever. But no, they're the roots and I mean, I don't know. Maybe hops don't normally last that long. Maybe they only have a few seasons in them. But yeah, it's noticeable.
There was a commercial that used to be on. I don't know how accurate it is for Sleeman's Brewing here in.
You need more beer.
And apparently, along the CPR, the Canadian Pacific Railway tracks, where hops were transported from one province into the next. Sometimes the odd hop would fall off and fall to the side of the tracks. And apparently along the tracks, there's now all these hop plants growing along the railway.
That's where the hop plants behind my building came from.
Yeah.
Because the train tracks are right there, and people in my building actually went and harvested them and then planted them out behind our building. So yeah,
interesting.
I don't know. I don't know what kind they are though.
And that's just it, right? I mean, it's like, how much farmland do we have to devote to hops when we still have to grow things like food to eat?
Well, I can only observe that they managed the trick in Europe.
Which is what? You said there was a trick to it in Europe?
Well, whatever trick it is, they seem to know how to do it. Like we have more land than Europe does, so what?
Oh, that's true.
Why wouldn't we be able to? Like, I kind of think that it's probably
my assumption is we are going to have to. The Crafty Boys will have to invest in glass and aluminum posts. We could build our own. I don't know. We could make some hop greenhouses. I would think we're smart enough. Just start building it on Crown land until they notice. I mean, it'd be fine. Wouldn't get in trouble at all.
Well, people used to do that with weed, didn't they? Yeah, no,
I can get a cut of our profits. I mean, why not?
Now, having said all this, I mean, our new prime minister, Mark Carney, is going to be meeting with Trump next week or this week or whatever. And who knows? I mean, the tariffs could be gone by this time next week.
Sure, that'd be par for the course, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
Okay, let's talk about our new prime minister, who's been prime minister for like 10 minutes.
Well, prime minister with a mandate for the last.
With a mandate, true, but
let's be clear. I loved him as a banker. Rare that you can say that about very many bankers.
Yeah,
true.
I'll say this. I think he is the best qualified person to lead Canada at this time.
I like how you do that with your hand. I want to be very clear that Carney is the most qualified.
It makes me look like a politician.
Well, that's why I was because that's what Obama. I want to be very perfectly clear. It's always that thumb out. Perfectly clear.
Not only am I whapping you with my stick, it's
I want you to know that what I'm saying is the truth.
Okay, calm down. You're Ritalin.
Oh, sorry. Honestly, watching all of the campaigning going on the past month or so
Mm.
has been entertaining, and I think I was surprised that the NDP were kicked in the crotch quite a bit.
They still hold the balance of power.
That may be true.
Mm.
But I was actually surprised that we didn't have a conservative majority. So
You were
that
surprised.
seemed to be where it was going, and then Carney shows up, and
Well,
the
yeah,
whole campaign trail shifted.
but yeah, no. But it didn't surprise me in the slightest because Poilievre seemed like a stalking horse for Trump, didn't he?
Yeah.
Nobody's stupid enough to fucking elect that kind of an asshole. He even lost his seat. And he deserves it. And he deserves it for having shitty hair like Harper. He's got that fucking
Harper head.
Honestly,
I'm a goody two shoes and a nerd hair. Like, fuck you, asshole.
I think it's more that people just didn't like Poilievre.
Or whatever the fuck his name is, yeah.
I did actually watch a little.
It is sort of interesting.
The other day.
It is sort of interesting that the battle for Canada was between Albertans, pretty much.
Yeah, this is true.
Like of the real incumbents, once Trudeau stepped down, the real incumbents, you got Polly Morris or whatever he fucking is, Polyphemus. Sorry. Anyway, you got him, you got Carney, and you got Freeland, who are all from fucking Alberta. It's sort of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk now about after the election is done in Alberta, which voted mostly conservative. Like I think it was like 90% or something. Now the premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, wants to have a provincial referendum on separation from Canada.
That's the sort of fucking nonsense that those. She probably, yeah. I mean, she probably has ties with the Wild Rose Party, for fuck's sake.
I would say so.
They are insane in Alberta. I don't think I've seen a sane Albertan ever. Have you?
No.
Well, it's a funny thing that, how sane do I think Carney is, or Freeland? Put it this way: I've never met Carney personally. I have met Freeland.
Oh, okay.
Talk to me, so she can't be that normal.
Well played.
I mean, Carney seems all right, but I mean, we'll see when the honeymoon's over.
Yeah, that's what you mean. Look, I know what you mean, but really, in terms of, has he done a good job in his previous roles? Yes. Does he stand a chance of doing the same here? I think so. And sorry, was there another real choice in the room?
No, there wasn't.
No,
not really.
No. If there's going to be an NDP Canadian federal government, it's going to have to be with somebody with greater gravitas than somebody who shows videos of himself as a boxer.
What the NDP needs is
somebody. I'm not saying it's not a good qualification. I've met Jagmeet Singh as well, and he's a cool dude, but that's not the qualification that we need against Trump. You're not going to beat the shit out of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Although you may want to.
Well,
what we need is somebody like Ed Broadbent back at the helm of the party.
Say what? Ed Broadbent?
Yeah.
If the NDP would ever
Was he
win.
an NDP-er?
Sure,
Ed
man.
Broadbent, yes, he was like the leader of the federal NDP party for like 20 years.
I guess I never actually. I never really understood what. Yeah, I never really thought that much about politics in those days, anyway.
Yeah. He was a leader, I want to say late 70s into the like mid 90s. I actually read his autobiography or biography. I don't think he wrote it. But yeah, he was a pretty cool guy and showed sort of like behind the curtain a little bit. Although he was like on the other side of the house from some other leaders, they didn't hate each other. I mean, they went out for lunch together and stuff, and you know they were friends.
Political culture used to be a lot less screwed up than it is right now. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I just looked up Ed Broadbent. Yeah, he was leader from 75 to 89, and then he
left, and then he came back.
Yeah, then he came back in the late 1990 to 2004. No, 2004 2006. So, but I mean, you know, a lot of those individuals as well had such a great they had such experience in that thing where you're seeing a lot more individuals who don't have a whole lot of political experience when they're going for leadership roles, where Carney, I don't know, he's had a lot of experience. Has Carney ever been a politician beforehand?
No.
So he's suddenly thrust into this role of being leader of a country and with very little experience under his belt. Now, granted, you know, that's kind of how democracy is supposed to work, where it's like anybody could ascend to those levels.
But more to the point, he's experienced in terms of the kind of real issues that you need to decide in order.
Exactly.
Economically.
So, and that's kind of what I'm saying, is that individuals that are in that position, Carney or otherwise, are criticized or scrutinized in ways that I don't think are quite fair. Like there's been a lot of discussion about his handle on French, but he has been going, he has been learning, he has been educating himself in that respect. And, you know, that's all you really can do. I mean, the fact is we have a country that has 2 official languages, and unfortunately, one side of the country, you know, sort of, I guess, Manitoba West, might have fewer French speakers than Manitoba.
Actually, Manitoba has more French speakers. What you get is Quebec and Manitoba, and then you get actually you get some French speakers in Saskatchewan as well. Then Alberta.
Yeah, there's communities that are primarily French.
Alberta and BC because just in terms of colonization patterns and you know, ultimately businesses that were being run. Yeah, the Northwest Company, the Hudson's Bay Company.
So, you know, I think that everyone, you know, whether you like them or not, does deserve a chance of some kind. And they should be a little free from, you know, criticism, I think. I mean, not a lot, but enough to, you know, give them a break and give them a good year to really settle into political life. I'm saying, like, we've had like people like Trudeau, and we've had other people that have ascended to prime minister level politics, but they've been in politics for years. Where people like Carney, I'm just, you know, I'm trying to be fair to the guy. I don't know him.
Well, okay, sorry. Trying to be fair to the guy in respect of what exactly? Like, but before Trump.
Well, a lot of the criticism that I've seen of him has been relatively, I mean, trivial things, I guess. You know,
I think it's more to do with the party he's associated with, and not him.
Okay, that's a very good point. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think there's you have to have such a thick skin to be in politics.
Imagine then how thick a skin you need to be
right now, but I mean more so than in years past. Like people would sort of like they would give people the benefit of the doubt, allow them to learn. It's like it's okay if you make a mistake, and then correct that mistake. Now
I kind of vastly
you
prefer
haven't even made a mistake yet, and people are saying, "Oh, but you're going to." I mean.
Look. Here's the thing that all of that's fine, and all of that used to be standard until we entered the infotainment industrial complex.
That is actually far more important to comment about because, yeah, you're right. We have approached. We haven't quite got there, but we've approached the RoboCop level of
our tolerance.
The U.S. literally is government as reality TV. Look at who fucking runs it.
More so now than ever.
Kind of makes me want to go into politics.
See, you know what?
Right, Shane.
And now I don't want to. I don't want to.
Could be that the right way to do politics is as a blogger. You just blog a lot. You give people a map. I think this. I think this. I think this. You want to refer back to it? Look at my previous episodes.
Apparently, our camera is now changed to reveal our background. Please ignore the knick-knack cabinet over there. But anyway, but yeah, I'm agreeing with what you guys are saying because it is, it is a RoboCop world. Sorry, I was saying that earlier, but yeah, it is definitely. We've gone into, I'd buy that for $1 territory.
Nuke 'em. Get them before they get you.
It's so true.
With a knick-knack and paddywhack, give a dog a bone. This old man came rolling home.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
So the beer you're drinking right now, you changed beers. Any commentary about this particular one? The beer can?
It's exactly what you would want it to be, which is to say, it is,
beer.
It's just it tastes like
a lager, or
I think it's
style of beer is it?
I presume it to be a lager. Yeah, it doesn't say, which is good. I appreciate that there's no fucking artist.
Well, then it matches everything you could ever want.
Yeah, no. It's a sound product. I'm very happy with it. It's actually it's a brewery that I'd like to discuss further on future episodes. Radical Roads seem to be doing a good job. They have another product called
Ball. We'll be on again next week. This is like our first episode in like a month. So
yeah, this is true. But yes, we will be back next week. Earlier in the day, so that Locke is not, doing this at 1 a.m. And but thank you all for watching. We will be back with beer, and there's really not much else you need. So there you are. Bye, everybody. Good night, Locke.
Bye. Bye. Bye.